Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, February 27th, 2018.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Well, Russ, we had the deadline yesterday, and not as many trades as many people think. I think it was 16 trades, which was pretty low. There was still some interesting reactions to some of the deals, and we'll go over some of the deals and go over some of the reactions in the next half hour to 40 minutes. Start with the Vancouver Canucks, and now the only move that they made of major significance was the Vanek deal, and apparently, and this is not surprising, apparently the Vancouver fans are not happy that they traded Vanek and they didn't get a draft pick back for a guy like Benning, who has made his bones in the draft, picking guys like Besser and Juolevi. You would have thought that they would want to get at least a draft pick in this trade with Columbus, and they only got Tyler Mott, who is in his early 20s. But what do you think of that?
Listen, I think Tyler Mott is a terrific player in the sense that he already has proved he could play at the NHL level. I think he needed to get away from Torts. I think Torts toyed with him a little bit, like he liked what he saw, and then all of a sudden fell out of favor a little bit. Tyler Mott is a strong kid. He skates well. He plays a fairly good two-way game, has some offensive push. Like, third or fourth line. Again, for the draft pick that you give up for him, it's going to take you 4 or 5 years and a prayer that the guy gets to the NHL. They got a guy they could insert in their lineup.
What I think this signifies is that Jim Benning knows he doesn't have a lot of rope. He's got rope. He just signed a new deal. But if they don't start to show results in the next 1 to 2 years, that he's probably, gonna get the axe on his neck. And Mott sort of fills that time frame that he can contribute immediately, rather than a third round pick who may never do so.
Yeah, anytime you could put in somebody that could play, that supersedes almost any draft pick except for maybe a first rounder, and then you have to even consider, is it a high first rounder? So that's something to me that's really important. Sorry about that. I hate these websites. I had to load some. I know. So I think that supersedes that. And so, like, for these Vancouver fans that are complaining, it's really, I don't get it. It's just irrational behavior. Do you really think a third-round pick is going to be better than Tyler Mott? Probably not.
The thing is, Russ, is that if you look at – it's been like a cavalcade of things that the Vancouver fans in the majority did not want. They didn't want Benning back. He's back. They didn't want Eric Branson re-signed. They extended him for 3 years. Now they don't get a draft pick in the Vanek deal. So it's like they're not getting – I think there's an appetite, like there was in Toronto, like there was in Buffalo, like there was in a few other places, for a full rebuild, but they're not getting the full rebuild. They're getting sort of the rebuild on the fly. And I do give Benning a lot of credit for his acumen in terms of drafting, because Besser was 21st, 22nd overall in that draft.
23rd, I think. Yeah.
23rd, yeah. I mean, he's been a pretty good pick, and
we should talk about that. When you get a 23rd overall pick that plays the way Brock Besser does, that's something that happens once every 10 years. Like, that doesn't happen like that he could win the Calder and he got drafted 23rd. Like, for people to expect that every year would be crazy, right? Or at least I think it would be crazy. But I get what happens with fan bases. Like, they sort of get pigeonholed into, well, this other way isn't working, so now we're overvaluing what our draft picks are and our young assets are, and we don't want to give any of them up because this is our only hope and this is what I'm clinging to. But at the end of the day, you still have to go with what management wants to do. But again, I'm taking Tyler Mott over a third-round pick every day. That third-round pick will be like, what, 80th overall? Like, come on.
Yeah. I understand the want of the fan base, because the draft pick represents hope. And in most,
doesn't a player who can get in the lineup represent hope too?
Yeah, but I think that what they were hoping for was something more along the lines of a second round pick or something like that. And that's the general theme of yesterday, of the deadline, especially with the forwards. Now, the reaction in Buffalo regarding Evander Kane, Jason Botterill came out in a press conference after the deadline, and here's a quote: "The bottom line is we had one legitimate offer for Evander. The market dictates you're going to be able to get out there." And now, okay, they got a conditional first, probably not going to be a first-round pick because it requires the Sharks to win the Stanley Cup, which I don't think they're going to do,
right?
Or Kane signing there, and that's possible if they give him. And they're going to have a lot of money, so if he likes it in Northern California, I mean, there are worse places to live, but you know, they more than likely it's a rental to get into the playoffs.
Well, so on another broadcast, I said that Kane can't really get in a lot of trouble in San Jose. I've been to San Jose. It's more boring than Buffalo. I mean, honestly, as far as like, you know, what you could do. So I honestly think that's a good place to put him and keep him on the good path.
But San Francisco is pretty close. You can get in trouble in San Francisco.
It's not that close. I drove from San Francisco to San Jose, and I think it was like an hour and a half.
Yeah, so it's the same distance between Buffalo and Toronto. So.
Now, if he takes a helicopter, then hey, I can't. You
know. He's been known to do that once or twice. Yeah. And you know, the Golden State Warriors are a team that people would want to go see. Yeah. But there's general disappointment in Buffalo that they weren't able to get more for Kane. They didn't get anything for expiring contracts like Benoit Pouliot or Josh Georges because, I mean, honestly, Josh Georges I think is past it. I don't think he has the speed to play in the league anymore. And I mean, when you don't even get a nibble on him as a depth defenseman, that
tells you something. Yeah.
It tells you something. And they didn't move either one of their goaltenders. I mean, apparently Leonard came out and said that the talk yesterday that he had requested a trade was, quote, fake news, unquote.
Okay.
But I don't think this organization is going to qualify Robin Leonard.
Oh, I think they're going to, because if nothing else,
so they can trade him.
Qualify him so you've set his market price, and then you worry about it later.
Well, I mean, he's going to the qualifying offer for him will be about $4.5 million.
Do it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he hasn't really proved. I mean, there have been moments where he's looked really good, but he hasn't really proved anything.
Well, I think he's had a good year, and I think with better defense, he'd be better. Because when I've seen him, he's looked good. Now, here's the thing. Here, and when I talk about seeing him live, here's what I ask you. So, if Robin Leonard, you're not qualifying him, who are you getting?
Ullmark will be their number one then.
Right. So Ullmark can be their number one anyhow with Leonard there if he beats him out. If not, then Leonard still has the job. Like, you know what I mean? If that's the answer, it gives them a safety net.
That would be typical Buffalo, though, to be paying your starter $860,000 and your backup $4.5 million.
Right. But it's not a terrible thing. It's not a big cash outlay. And at the end of the day, Ullmark still would have to win that job.
Yeah, I think Ullmark has got that job for next year. He's playing well in Rochester. He's a big kid. I think that's the future in Buffalo in goal until Luukkonen comes over from Finland in a few years. I mean, I think Ullmark is the stopgap, and I think they're going to be a lot of.
Wouldn't you? To me, I'd rather have these guys battle it out. I don't want to just hand it to Ullmark. He hasn't proved anything at the NHL level.
I don't know if they want to pay Leonard $4.5 million.
They're gonna listen. They're not spending great money. Are they even in the middle of the league in the cap?
No. But I think Botterill is gonna. I mean, there's gonna be some changes in Buffalo. I mean, obviously it's one of the league's worst teams right now. There is talent there, but I think it's sort of.
They'll woo John Tavares if they're able to woo him. They'll definitely make an offer to him. They'll definitely bring him into Buffalo and bring him to all the finest places in Buffalo. So that'll take 10 minutes. Actually, no, but I will tell you this.
Just avoid that wing place that I refuse to name anymore.
No, actually, to be honest, there was a guy on Beat Bobby Flay the other day who is from Buffalo, and he did great. He said he wanted to bring like fine dining to Buffalo. I can't remember the name of the chef. He's really good. If we ever could go to his place, I would change my mind about Buffalo.
There are fine dining places in Buffalo. It's just whenever you're here, we
just come in and we get wings
we just go to wings. Right, exactly. Good wings, not that crap that.
I don't think it's a guarantee that Leonard is not getting tendered.
Okay. Now the reaction in Ottawa, obviously, Erik Karlsson didn't get moved. Pierre Dorion comes out after the deadline. Here's the quote. Eric and I have a great relationship. Eric and I had a good meeting this morning in my office. He loves being in Ottawa. I think he wants to be a Senator for life. If he is here on July 1st, we will make him a contract offer. The optimum word here, folks, is if.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, again, if he says he's not going to be there, he'll get less at the draft for him, right? So he's going to shop him at the draft. He'll see what kind of offer he can get. We don't know where the Sens will be picking, but what if all of a sudden they can move whatever pick they have and get into the top 5 and get players back with Karlsson? Then they're going to move them. And that would, that could get them another really good defenseman and someone like Quinn Hughes, just to throw his name out there. I like Quinn Hughes better than Adam Boqvist, or we can get him Boqvist too. So either way, that's something where, hey, that's a pretty good start right there to rebuilding Ottawa and staying within the financial constraints that they have to.
Yeah, it's just a mess there. I mean, really, I
apologize. I'm not in the chat room today. I've done so much between yesterday and today that I'm not typing. Sorry.
No. Yeah, and I think I'm getting carpal tunnel here as well. It really is a mess, and you have to. I mean, there's a lot of vehement anti-Melnyk sentiment in Ottawa, but this is he's showing no signs of selling this team. So I don't think that there is any avoiding this situation from coming to a head at the draft in Dallas, where we'll be in late June. I think he's getting traded. I don't think there's any. I mean, I can't say it's 100%. I'm just guessing based on what is going on right now and all the signals that are there. I mean, he probably wants to be the highest paid defenseman in the NHL, and I think that if that's the case,
that's definite.
Yeah, and if that's the case, and remember, all this started from when Melnyk made his comments before the outdoor game, and Karlsson came back and said there would be no hometown discount. I think Melnyk was relying completely on his love of Ottawa, his wife being from Ottawa, all those factors to get him on a, say, $9.5 to $10 million deal, and then he could stomach that. But when he's basically saying, I want to be the highest paid defenseman in the NHL, that means he's going to be making 11, 12 million. There's going to be no bargain there.
Well, but they could sort of do a fake deal like Giancarlo Stanton being the highest paid player in baseball, and we all knew he wouldn't stay with the Marlins forever. They could front load some of that money, make him the highest paid defenseman, make those, later years cheaper. And then by the year after, Drew Doughty will be the highest paid guy anyhow, but at least they will fulfill that obligation.
But Russ, the thing is with Ottawa, they want to do if they keep him, they want to do the exact opposite. They want to do what they did with Hoffman. They backloaded it. They wanted to pay as little as possible.
I know, but for Karlsson, they may have to change that.
That's why I think he's going to get dealt, because maybe that's the desire of Karlsson. I don't think that's the desire of Melnyk. I don't think he wants to pay him that kind of money. And if he does, I don't know how he pays the other players that are on that team. That means Matt Duchene goes someplace else. That means Mark Stone might go someplace else. So,
well, I think, look, at the end of the day, if Matt Duchene goes someplace else, I don't think that's the end of the world. I think Stone will stay. You still have to have players. You still have to reach the cap floor, right? So I think maybe you'd have to move one more player. But here's the thing. If somehow, by some miracle, they keep Erik Karlsson and have him for the new building, that'd be pretty good to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a remote thing. It's a remote chance.
Yeah, going along with the forward story, reading up on what happened with Edmonton, apparently Peter Chiarelli said he got one phone call on Patrick Maroon at 5 minutes to 3 from the Devils.
I called him, but I hung up. Is he counting that phone call?
He traced the call. No, but he got one call from an NHL GM 5 minutes before the deadline. I mean, this sounds like this was based, and as I thought, this was a buyer's market, and they were trying to lowball the sellers, and then go to them like 10 minutes before the deadline and said, "Here, I'll give you this." It was Sebastian Coburg and a third-round pick all over the place. That's what it was.
Yeah, but, good for the Devils. I mean, they'll use Maroon probably on the second or third line. They'll put him in front of the net on the power play. He'll add extra grit to that team. That'll help them. That'll help them try and keep their playoff position.
Now, Lou Lamoriello came out after the deadline. He had no news, obviously, regarding.
That's the kind of news Lou likes.
Yeah, because the Leafs made their news on Sunday, bringing in Thomas Plekanec, and then on Monday he was not able to.
Have you changed your position on Thomas Plekanec?
No, I think it was a terrible trade.
Okay.
This
he
is the
clean shaven.
And I don't care what he looks like, shaved or unshaved. This is the thing, and I'm gonna write this in my column right after the webcast.
In blood.
In blood. The Leafs did the same thing that they did last year. I don't think it's good asset management for a team to repeat the same thing, filling the fourth line center hole with 2 second-round picks. Brian Boyle last year and Plekanec this year. Dominic Moore is a fine fourth line center. Mike Babcock Mike Babcock apparently believes that Dominic Moore was the best of a bad bunch because he passed on Eric Fair. He gave Freddie Gauthier 9 games and turned it and sent him back to the AHL because they didn't think he was ready. And Dominic Moore I thought, played okay or played well. I can buy the depth argument, and apparently Lou Lamoriello factored in the fact that Plekanec drives Brad Marchand crazy. He hates him. He hates to play against him. He gets underneath his skin, so that's a contributing factor to them if and when they play Boston, which they're going to. But the whole point of this is that they gave up 2, and these are not throwaway picks. It's not like a 4th-round pick. It's a 2nd-round pick for 2 fourth-line centers. That's not good asset management. That's placating your head coach, and I don't think that that was the right way to go. Now, I knew that they weren't going to go the other way and do what Detroit did and trade. And then Tatar was not an unrestricted free agent, but they didn't do what.
No, but they got rid of a lot of his salary for a 1, 2, and a 3. That was brilliant.
Right. No, and
if those picks were in other years, who cares?
What the Rangers did with Nash, what a couple other teams did, what the Sabres did for Kane, they were not going to do it for Van Riemsdyk because they wanted to keep the team together, and I get that, but I don't think that what they did at the deadline. And the thing is, once you make the Plekanec deal, then you're in. Then you're not to say you're all in, that you trade all your assets, but then you're in. The natural second step is to get the defenseman.
Yeah.
And Lou in the press conference said we were in on McDonough, but we weren't in it enough as much as Tampa
once
was.
Nylander came up, it was like, okay, too rich for my blood,
Right? No, they were not trading Nylander or Marner. But if you look at the deal between Tampa and the Rangers, I think Nemestikov and Miller cancel each other out.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I really think Nemestikov has a higher ceiling than Miller. I do.
I'm not saying he doesn't have a higher ceiling. I'm saying in the sense that one's an RFA, the other one's an RFA. They're about the same age. I'm saying.
Okay, if you want to say it in that regard, fine.
Right. Yeah, I think they cancel each other out. So you're talking about the package for McDonough being a 1, a conditional 2, Hayjack, and Howden.
Right.
That now, the equivalent of that would be.
So go ahead, make the Leafs offer to me.
Yeah, a 1. Scott Wheeler from The Athletic equated that with the Leafs as a 1, a 2, Carl Grundstrom and Jeremy Bracco.
I respectively decline. Thank you, Scott Wheeler, for trying.
You would take the Tampa deal over
every day because of Nemestikov and because of Howden, because now I've gotten 2 centers out of the deal.
Now I don't know nobody knows what the Leafs offered, but
who I think could be very effective centers. I like Jeremy Bracco a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like Lundstrom a lot.
But I don't know who the Leafs offered. Right. I don't know who the Rangers were looking for. If the Rangers were looking for,
if you're telling me you'll give me Kapanen and Bracco and everything else, then I'll consider. Well, I know you're saying no, but I'm saying, but that's what it would take.
I don't think they're going to give up Kapanen. I don't think they were going to give up Dermott. And Lamoriello said that Dermott playing as well as he's played so far was a swaying factor to them, that they didn't need that defenseman as badly as they thought they were going to. And that's all fine and good to have confidence in a rookie. And I like Travis Dermott, and I think he's going to be a good NHLer, but I also he's not the problem. The problem is you've got 2 players in your top 4 who don't belong in a top 4. Ron Hainsey, who has had a good year but has slipped of late. And I think Jake Gardiner, in spite of the fact that he's got over 30 assists, is a defensive liability.
I'm sure the chat room's going crazy over that.
Of course. They don't, you got a bunch of Gardiner lovers. I just don't.
What about a shot suppression, Mike?
Yeah, okay, whatever. And Nikita Zaitsev.
Here's the one statement I want to make. One statement I want to make is I fix my front stoop every year with tubes of Quickcrete mortar, and I do just fine. I think the Leafs are doing that too. I think they'll survive.
They won't. They will not make the deep run that a lot of people think that.
No, I don't think they're getting past Boston either. I don't.
Yeah, and if they don't get, if they do get by Boston, which is a possibility, I'm a little more optimistic than that with the injury news, and we'll talk about that in a second. I don't think there's any way they get by Tampa unless Tampa is ravished with injuries. I don't think there's any way they get by Tampa.
Now. They've added a lot of depth on the defense, and that's going to be a big deal for teams.
Yes,
a lot.
Now. I know Eck in his column said, who are the big winners. I don't really know who the big winners are. I think it's too soon. We were doing like the grade the trade type of thing for the deadline yesterday.
I mean, you could grade them. I don't necessarily like to say who won or lost. I could just say, hey, this is what I didn't like. This is what I liked. If you want to give like Tampa an A, an A because of who they got and maybe they could get past Pittsburgh, that's fine because I think there's merit to that.
I like what Jarmo Kekalainen did. He adds Ian Cole. That solidifies their defense. And he adds Letestu as a depth center. And he scored yesterday.
But the biggest addition, again, was letting Sonny Milano play. And the first game back, he scores another goal. He's got 9 goals on the year, which on a Columbus team is very important to them.
Yeah, and we have to talk about that game because
the hear me hitting the desk? I just want to make sure people hear me pounding the desk.
Thanks, Torts.
Did something he had to apologize for yesterday. Did you see that?
Who did?
Torts.
What did he apologize for?
In game, he I guess he felt like Alex Ovechkin basically.
Oh, it was beautiful. I mean, they were going
embellished, and Torts apparently tried to either call him over or say something to him. Yeah. And then he said after the game, no, that's my fault. I should never have done that. I was wrong. So good for Torts for saying that. But obviously he realizes in game his temper can get the best of him.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that Ovechkin showed like his fingers and there was a little blood there. Yeah. But you know what? I think it was an embellishment. So, I don't blame Torts because I can't remember what a Columbus player got a match penalty for it. But, and I think it was 3-1 at that time. It was a way of getting Washington back in that game. And I don't, honestly, I like that part of Torts. I like the emotional part of Torts. It's entertaining, definitely. But I think that the additions of Cole and Letestu and Vanek helps their case as opposed to what the Islanders did, which was basically nothing. Chimera for Wagner and the acquisition.
Let's talk about this. Why was Jason Chimera even signed to a 2-year deal at the age of 38? Or maybe he was 37 when the deal was signed. Why?
Because they thought they were. Remember, he was signed after that their playoff. After they got into the playoffs and they beat Florida and lost to Tampa, Chimera was signed, and they thought that they were closer than they were because they signed him. They signed Andrew Ladd. I mean, they're paying for Garth. I was going to say Garth Brooks for a second. They're paying for Garth Snow's past mistakes. Now, he wiped that slate clean by trading the remainder of Chimera's contract to Anaheim.
Chris Wagner, who is a below average fourth line guy. That's what.
Yeah, the funny thing is they trade a more experienced and a contributor. I mean, he's not a great player, but he's a contributor when they're in a playoff race.
Right.
So I don't know.
Money, Mike. And maybe ownership liked the fact that they save money and they're saving their pennies to give them to Tavares. Like, we don't know. Until something happens, ownership seems to be okay with Garth. Until something happens, I have to go with that. I don't know if we didn't hear anything from ownership saying we're very unhappy with what happened at the deadline. Now, is Garth going to get fired before the draft? I don't know. Now, GMs don't do the drafting anyhow. But he has influence on certain scouts, and they know what he liked. Are they going to remove that? I don't know. Like these are the big questions with the Islanders. But they got Davidson. Hey, they're good. He practiced with the team yesterday.
Oh boy,
he's going to make all the difference.
Just there's a little breaking news here. We'll mention it. We got about maybe 5-10 minutes to go in the show. Normally they announce when the next NHL draft is coming at the previous draft.
Right.
There's an announcement being made tomorrow. The 2019 draft, according to from a reporter from Sportsnet, is going to be in Vancouver.
In Van. They had the draft in – what was Nick Backstrom's draft? Because I remember interviewing Nick Backstrom in Van.
06, 07?
06 or 07, I was in Van. Yeah, because I think it was 06 because I was in Vancouver for the World Juniors and the draft that year.
And there you go. The World Junior is in Vancouver and Victoria,
right,
in December.
So it's the same setup. It's the same exact setup.
Yeah. So, well, I'll have to look at flight prices for Vancouver.
I will tell you this: I had so much fun in Vancouver. It's a great city, but I did something that was very loopy. Right, we were walking around bored one day, and we went into the Scientology Center. Right. And they have
I'm surprised you got out.
Well, here's the thing. I wanted to see, I wanted to be pitched. And so we went in and they have a little book section, right? So we're looking at the books and some guy comes over and he just reeks of cigarettes. And I was just like, are you allowed to smoke in Scientology? And he just, as a Scientologist, he just sort of gave me this look and we all just left. We were just, it was just, but it was funny. We went in there and we explored a little.
And the book was Why I Love Tom Cruise. Okay, now a couple other things about the deadline. I think the Ryan Hartman deal was a really good one for Nashville, not only because I think he gives them a little bit of snarl and a little energy and some depth scoring, but also he's on an entry level right now, and they can sign him, and he's under control for more than a few years.
Remember, this first-round pick, a later first-round pick that Chicago gets, will take 4 to 5 years to maybe become what Ryan Hartman is, scoring 20 goals every year in the NHL. That's a hope. So you know that they didn't want to get rid of Ryan Hartman, but this is future cap problems. That's what.
But basically, they knew they were going to have to pay him $3 or $4 million a year on a bridge deal.
Yep.
Something like that. The Paul Stastny deal. Stastny will be playing, as Peter said yesterday, between Laine and Ehlers. Boy, his life tough.
Yeah, that's a nice land for him. And apparently, St. Louis players are a little upset, but
yes, I heard Braden Shen lost. He went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. When he heard
but let's say something here. Maybe Armstrong did the right thing. Maybe he wanted to shake up that locker room and get them out of their comfort zone and get them playing better. And maybe it will as a result. That's what GMs do sometimes. I mean, it's still up to Jake Allen too, but this could be a positive, even though he was a great guy in the room. Look, like I said, he had been underperforming for years there, but as far as just adding him to Winnipeg, it's a great add for Winnipeg.
Now, as you said earlier, I mean, Ken Holland deflected all the criticism that he got or would have gotten about not trading Mike Green, and it was basically
they'll still trade him for draft rights, and someone will get.
But they won't get hardly any. They'll get a 5th round pick. Who cares?
Yeah,
I mean, he had a chance of getting a 1st, and he got injured at the wrong time. But getting a 1, a 2, and a 3 for Tatar that's
sweet, man.
That's insane.
Even if he was able to hold 50% of this year's deal with him, he's getting him off the books. That's a big deal. That could be, by the way, a really nice goodbye gift that he gave to the Red Wings. You never know.
Yeah, because there's talk about him, if there is a Seattle franchise, of him being the potential GM in Seattle. Now, going to some of the games first of all, a couple news items. Patrick Hornquist signs a contract extension with the Penguins after the deadline, 5 years, $5.3 million. That's a
great deal. Like, that's, you know what? Just getting Hornquist has meant a lot to this whole cup run. If you really think about it, we probably don't give him enough credit. That's a really manageable number he's got there to just keep winning.
But no, I think you're right. But I think that the window for this team is maybe 2 to 3 years.
I'm not even going to say that. Like, we want to say that every year, but like, these guys are not old. How are we talking for Crosby and Malkin?
Well, Crosby's 30, isn't he?
30. Wow, he's 30, Mike. So yeah, they'll never get back.
No,
I know,
but
I'm just saying,
we just know I mean, great players can they can
he
ascend.
might play until he's 40 if he's
Right,
healthy.
But the whole key for them is him being a dominant player like he is right now. And there's no way to tell whether he's going to be as dominant as he is right now at age 35. I mean, that's why I'm saying
now
that's 5 years.
Malkin's 29, right?
Yeah, Malkin's 29.
And I think he'll be dominant longer than Crosby. I think because he's had less injuries, fewer injuries, and he's a bigger guy. So, dude, I can't even say it. I'm not going along with what you're saying. I can't do it.
Okay. The tale of Vadim Shipachyov.
Oh, this is a great tale.
It's puzzling. Remember how much he was talked about last summer, and everybody thought it was a coup that George McPhee signed him to that deal.
Yep.
And now you tell the tale here, because
here's the tale. And I got some help from a friend on this one, but so he basically, if we remember, he got signed. He reported to the NHL camp. Then he was in the AHL. He played 3 NHL games and actually had a point. And they didn't like what they saw, so they parted ways with him. So that's 2 leagues he was in. He goes to the KHL.
He retired.
Yeah, I forget that he retired. He retired. He goes back to the KHL, and now he's in the VHL, which is the equivalent of like a mix of the AHL/ECHL for them, and he was on the Olympic squad. Like, this is a crazy year, and if you think about the downward trend of this guy's career, it's going quick, man.
Well, and the only thing I can think of, and I don't know, I'm not privy to the reason why that Vegas was so
me neither
quick to pull the trigger. All I can say is, could it be a sort of Vladimir Krutov type of situation where he came over from Russia, came to North America, and I think thought that, oh my God, they have supermarkets here. Let me eat everything in the supermarket, because he.
Well, we should say Krutov was a big husky guy to begin with, and obviously he did like the food here. And who did he come with? The Devils? Is that who he?
No, Canucks. Him and Larionov together.
Yes. And so it just didn't work out because he liked the food too much.
Yeah, but we don't know what.
But he was a great player for a long time.
But Shipachyov was a star in the KHL last year.
Well, okay, so now let's talk about this, right?
Yeah.
So how many guys have come over from the KHL and really contributed in the NHL, taking Kovalchuk out of it because he was an NHLer first? Zaitsev is a good one.
Yeah.
Who else? Medvedev didn't work out.
Sabotka went there, and when it was here, then went back.
It was here first, right?
Yes,
Before so we can't count Sabotka. Like
Radulov the same.
Radulov the same. You get my point. Everybody gets crazy when guys come over or playing in the KHL. For one thing, the KHL is not a developmental league. Some guys may develop there, but I think more goalies than anything. I think goalies are the ones that goaltending is goaltending, and you can get away with it. But I think if we really looked at it, we'd be lucky to find like 7 players in the KHL that have really done good things in the NHL.
All right, quickly, some injury news. And I was at the game in Toronto on Saturday when Bergeron walked out of the Boston locker room wearing a boot.
Yeah.
They said it wasn't serious, and he played the next day in Buffalo against the Sabres. Now it comes out that Bergeron has I think it's a hairline fracture in his foot, and he's going to be out at least 2 weeks. I think this is just them being extremely careful, Russ. They're just as locked into second or third as Toronto is. Yeah. So they can, they've got 5 games in hand, 5 games in hand on Toronto.
Let them heal.
They're 2 points behind him, but Bergeron is too important. Let him heal. You've got extra players now, and why not?
Even if somehow they lost home ice, they wouldn't care.
Right. They're a veteran team. Yeah, right, exactly. Matt Murray, it's a concussion. Apparently Mike Sullivan let it be known that it was a concussion, and this is not the first concussion that Matt Murray has had. They bring up Jerry from Wilkes-Barre Scranton. He'll get the bulk of the work, but we're talking a month out of the playoffs, and this is.
I still think they're in the safe zone, though. I do.
Well, I mean, they right.
Because Jerry can play.
Yes.
I think they're in the safe zone.
Yeah, they have. I mean, the playoffs, I believe, will start around April 11th or 12th. I think the 12th is the Wednesday. So basically, you have 6 weeks, a little under 6 weeks.
I think they're okay.
I think they're okay right now, but
for the future, Tristan Jarry is probably going to get in there sooner than Matt Murray's contract will allow. Really,
what is it with Murray and Gibson? These two prominent, great young goaltenders, and they cannot escape injuries.
It's a position you get knocked around. I mean, let's face it.
That's true. Now, Nikita Kucherov missed the last 5 minutes of the first period and the remainder of the game last night against the Leafs. I didn't see what happened. They said it was an unspecified upper body injury, so we don't know the extent of it. I heard one report from apparently his agent said he was going to play on Wednesday. So if that's the case, it doesn't sound too serious.
But guys are getting dinged up. Tyler Johnson got dinged up in that game too.
And Stroman blocked a shot and was limping around for a minute or two. For a second I thought he might.
Everybody's starting to get dinged up late in the season here.
Yeah, and that does happen, but. Okay, abbreviated show today. We'll be back tomorrow. We're hoping to have Kevin Allen, who was in South Korea at the Olympics. We'll probably have him at some point during the week, but we will be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.